vulnerabilities is fundamental truths about all human beings. And then often we go, well, let me dump my trauma on this person. That's vulnerability. Let me tell them all my weaknesses. That's vulnerability. That's not true. It's the truth about every single one of us. The people that walk out on the street. That's the truth. And if it's the truth, then that means that there's vulnerability in it. And if you're in touch with your own vulnerability, that means you're in touch with your own fundamental truth about you. So it's awareness of yourself that makes you not only attractive, it makes you open. It also makes you intelligent. And a lot of the time people lack that. And it takes away from what they could be. There's an expression, don't throw rocks in glass homes. And a lot of people think that vulnerability is a weakness. I think it gives you better understanding of who you are. And this has been reoccurring. I've seen it in every single one of my clients today that so many people have such a hard time being authentic. And it's like there's nothing that feels better than being a child. You ever tell children be happy? They're effortlessly happy. In fact, there's a lot of things that make them miserable. It's that every day they have to be something that they're not. And then they constantly bear that burden into years, and then you become depressed, right? Of course you are, because you're doing everything that's inauthentic. I think ultimately things do come down to the concept of authenticity. You only have one job in your life, and it's to be you. And you get that down to a T, you'll experience the blessings of being you. Because not only will it feel damn good, it'll feel right. Women like men that are in touch with their emotions but are not burdened by them. The reason why that's the case is because you can often understand theirs. And believe me, it's a lot. A lot of men don't think that emotions are attractive, partially because they feel a lot of weakness around their own feelings. That's unattractive, especially to a woman. Think about it. Men were sold on a lie that the more you feel, the less of a man you are. That's like something I beat out of my clients constantly. I hear it all the time. It's disgusting. It's like, oh wait, I'm sorry, emotions are just for women. The truth is that if we don't develop a relationship with our values and how we choose to behave based off the character we want to adopt, then we're all just children. But emotions are for human beings across the board. So when a man is in touch with his emotions, not only can he provide more stability for the people around them, he can show that there's also room to play with the emotions that you have, and you can create expansion based off of it. There's a lot of responsibility behind that, and a lot of leadership that a lot of people abandon. Also, your life tastes good. It's euphoric. When you start putting those emotions in order, you start seeking understanding, you elevate them, and you develop your own character through that. I think the goal that every person should be trying to reach for is talk less, say more. Listen to people, please. And then you'll actually have something to say, opposed to just nonsense and noise. Most people are on nonsensical rambles, it's just noise. And of course nobody wants to listen to you because you're not saying anything, you're just talking. And I have that a lot even with my clients, is I'll just go, you're talking right now. You're not speaking from anywhere in particular. This is like programming to protect yourself from some form of vulnerable interaction. I am the most guilty of that. For years it was just talking, because it was like, great, there's nothing, you can just fill the gap with words and you don't have to feel anything. I get it. It's part of being a performer. Eventually you grow out of it and you start listening to people. And then when you listen to people, you could just say a few things. And somebody goes, whoa, thank you so much. And then you're there like, maybe I should never open my mouth again. And then guess what happens? Then people start talking to you. And I think probably in my recent life, since I've made this decision to start listening and observing, I've noticed that people start talking to me. And it's because I actually have something to say, because I finally shut up. I believe that for people that are trying to find purpose, stop trying to find purpose, start trying to find peace. In my life, I was somebody who just couldn't enjoy the beach, right? It was like I had to be making money. And every time that I'd spend money at the gas station, I'm like, my job, I spent $120, right? Los Angeles gas. It's a crime out here. But I noticed that I wasn't able to enjoy it. I'd spend time with my family and I'd be looking out the fucking window. I wouldn't even be having conversation with them. I was not present. I was everywhere else except where love demanded me to show up. And I've forsaken my life in a lot of ways. And then, of course, tragedy and crisis happens. It wakes you back up. It cracks you open, and you look back at your life, and you're like, thank you, God, for my blessings. Like, I got this. This is so good. And then the beach became beautiful. Money was just, didn't matter. I just want another moment. And if I could pay the bills to get to another moment, I'll pay the bills to get to another moment. And that I get to wake up, and I get to see my family, and I get to shower them with love, and I don't have to run elsewhere and maybe, water some romantic fantasy in my brain, because that would cure all of my problems. It's the day that I finally showed up for life, not for anybody else. And I showed up for life because life was so damn good. The second I did that, that's when I pulled Sir Arthur's sword from the stone. Effortless. It was like my purpose was in my hand all along. And it's because I decided to fall in love with life and the people around me, opposed to trying to romanticize relationships that would never exist, so that I can put my love there, not with the people that are around me. I believe that it's everybody's moral responsibility to water the grass that they are on. I know that we see the oasis miles away, and we try to run to the oasis just to have, sorry, no room for you here. Your job is to grow your patch into that oasis. And a lot of the time we don't do that. I know, okay, who are the people in your life? Well, just my parents. I'm gonna love them unconditionally. Why? Because they can receive it. Watch, what happens once you do that? Less or more? Often we go, well, if I love them, well then I probably wouldn't have any more love left to give to the person in my mind that I'll meet one day, if I'm so lucky. I dropped the whole shtick. I fell in love with life. I didn't care about what socioeconomical hierarchy I was in. And then as that happened, I'm not joking, the day I felt peace was the day I found my purpose. And that was also a day where my peace was gone, because now I had my purpose to fulfill. So it's like a little bit of a paradox. And then there's peace and purpose. And then you have to reintegrate that again. And then it expands and evolves, and then you have to reintegrate that again. And it expands and evolves, and every time it expands and evolves, you expand and evolve. That was another thing about vulnerability. I know a lot of people think they're hard asses by not saying what they really feel for the people around them. Say it. But when you say it, don't have an expectation. What makes everybody not want to be around you is the silent expectation when you say those compliments. You're allowed to say things that you really mean. You're also not going to say those things to create more distance between you and them. You're saying those things because they're fundamentally true. And I noticed it, that a lot of people repress. They don't repress their ambition, their anger. That's when most people repress their sadness, right? That's not true. Most people repress joy, actual happiness, because that's just short-lived. Why would you experience it if you're going to lose it? Let me just shut it down. Or repress genuine enthusiasm for something that you really appreciate and enjoy. Maybe a person that you're really in love with. You're like, nah, I'm not going to say these things, because if I say these things, I'll be perceived as ego. What about vulnerability? Saying what's on your mind. Why? How about this? Because I don't care. I want to say what's true. Not because I want something from you, but because I want to actually express this for myself. And that's where I think a lot of people have lost, is that they can't even say the truth about the person that enamors them. Maybe it be a 10-minute interaction. But could you say it without being cheap? Don't just go for flattery. Go for genuine interest, genuine observation about that person in front of you, and say something that you believe is true. And don't just say it. Rave about it, why not? Because maybe that's what people need in their life, a little bit more honest expression. Life's going to humiliate you one way or another. If you can't stand in front of the face of humility, life's going to kick your ass. And a lot of the time people don't have an ability to deal with awkwardness. And you think that you're not going to have awkwardness in your life. Think about how much more witty, quick, effortlessly social you can be. If you made, hey, I'm going to sit in awkwardness a little bit. And I do this a lot with people, typically. I like to say things that would make most people go like. And it's really funny. And I did this the other day. I was at the Victorian maybe a month ago. And there were a bunch of these college girls, and there was a small little Russian girl. And then we were just saying some things that we liked about each other. She's like, what do you like about me? I said, well, you're 5'1". And she's like, well, what's so likable about that? I said, well, I could pick you up. And I picked her up, right, and I put her down. And there's this silence between all the college girls that I just picked up their best friend, like she was a rag doll. And there was so much awkwardness for them, but there was so much tension between me and the short girl. So there's a level of power that you get in overcoming awkwardness that a lot of people don't know how to deal with. Like, I like to usually just say something absolutely ridiculous in the middle of conversations. You're like, oh, are you Jewish? You're like, oh, well, I'm not Jewish. Actually, my grandma is a Nazi, right? Like, that creates awkwardness. And I notice that a lot of the time people, they can't even stand under a little bit of tension. I notice that you can really tell the most confident people by their ability to deal with silence, because they're more calibrated, because they don't want to talk, they want to say something. And there is no awkwardness between two people being able to hang out. If you can't handle awkwardness, life will humiliate you. And this is very powerful, that if you can actually overcome what awkwardness makes you feel, not only can you become incredibly seductive, more importantly, you can actually see what other people are hiding. Because they'll start telling you shit. And what's even more funny is that if you feel like you're not finding yourself in awkward situations, maybe try being more authentic. Do something that would create some sort of awkwardness with some strangers. And the reason why I implement this as a good little like social homework is that a lot of the time people have a hard time being themselves because they themselves have labeled themselves awkward as a little boy or a little girl. Oh, I was the most awkward little boy. I was the most this, I was the most that. Why don't you incorporate that as an adult? Do a Peter Griffin laugh. In the middle of a conversation. Or what I like to do is go, wow. That works all the time. Or if you really want to fuck with them, bark. Ruh.
Embrace it, give it a hug.
Embrace it, give it a hug. And it's like, well, why? Because ultimately, this person's going to forget that you ever existed. And they'll probably have a funny story to tell somebody. This guy barked at me. And they go, fuck yeah. And then they go about their lives. Just like everybody else. They'll forget about it. But to you, what was it? It was a gesture of freedom. Showing who's in control. And most importantly, overcoming that humiliation that I believe that a lot of kids who've been bullied have experienced. Show the world you're free. There are some people that are actually afraid of eye contact, and I believe that if there's one thing that you can do if you're afraid of eye contact is go out of your damn fucking way to stare strangers in the eyes like it's your homework for the rest of your life. Do you understand the bare minimum of every human being is have teeth and maintain eye contact and you'll have a decent life? And if you don't have teeth, get them. And if you can't maintain eye contact, go out there and stare at motherfuckers, because it'll save your life. You know, I've worked with that. I've worked with a few people that couldn't look people in the eye. And it's that you have to remember, do this for yourself. Be recognized by others. You exist. Bear the weight of reality. Good. Keep looking. Now stand straight when you look at people. And ask people, just give a frame, for God's sake. If you can't look people in the eye, I'm sorry. Your ego has no room to be around here. You don't get to have ego. You can't look people in the eye. And this is actually really recurring. I notice that a lot of people don't even have that ability. They're like, come on, you need some accountability. Look at me here. You're in this moment. You're present, okay? That's why eye contact is very significant. I can tell when somebody's disassociating, even with their eyes. They're like, you're like, come back here. Come on, servers went out. A lot of people do have it better than their friends. And often to stay with their friends, they'll play small. Only to have their friends become resentful of them, because even if they were to reduce themselves to a mouse, it still wouldn't be small enough. So you'll have people that will adopt inferiority complexes of their friends so that they can have friends. And it goes the other way around. I found it really crazy that so many people don't actually have friends. I mean this. So many people don't have friends. They have people that don't mind your company. Think about that. They've never actually seen you. They've never actually heard what you want to do with your life. They've never seen your dissatisfaction. They've never actually seen your pain. There are people that are just there based off convenience. And when that convenience doesn't suit them, they'll leave. I've noticed a number of people after experiencing serious injury. Where are their friends now? Nowhere to be found. It's not convenient anymore. And now you think about that, which is the loneliness that people have, and the fact that I'm on calls with people, and I hear time after time, oh, I don't have any friends. I go, you don't have any friends? Pick up the rifles and start a revolution. You got nothing to lose. You don't like your life, and instead you pay thousands of dollars for a coach? How about you grab a rifle and you go fucking fight the institution that's imprisoning you, because you have nothing to lose. Maybe you'll find your friends there. So, what do you think about that? Just people lonelier than ever, that they don't even have friends. They have people that don't mind them, surrounded by people that aren't irritated by you. You're not surrounded by friends. Some people just aren't irritated by you. That's the standard that they have for a friendship nowadays. And I noticed that you want to have a really happy life. Develop a standard behind your friends. And they need to challenge you, and they need to be able to cry with you and to celebrate with you. And I believe, just most importantly, that there are people that they're not there to love you unconditionally. They're there to let you understand what real love is. Unconditional love, it's a beautiful term, but it's weaponized like crazy right now. It does not mean I love you when you step all over me. It means I will love you as much as you can receive the love that I can give you. And once that starts to cross a boundary to where I start to hurt myself, I'm out. That is unconditionally loving somebody. And I believe that the difference needs to be said, and I believe that is it. When people begin to realize that it's not unconditional love when you get stepped on. In fact, that is you using love as a weapon, which means that it's not love. You're using it against yourself. Know when to draw the line. And it's when they cross that boundary, when they can't receive. It makes you trustworthy when you communicate what you want and need from people. I talked about that to my clients today. He's like, why do I feel fake? I said, oh, why do you feel fake? Maybe start asking people for things. And it's like I read his mind. Let me tell you something about fake people. Fake people are people that put a silent expectation on everybody and tell them vocally, very vocally. And they go, oh, I need nothing from you guys. I'm safe Dan. I'm just, Dad fixes it all. I'm just the best in the West. I don't need anybody. I need nothing from you. Those are the fakest people. The realest people are like, these are things that I need from you. This is how it's going to look on paper. This is how we're going to be in our relationship. This is what I need from others. And then you're like, oh, you're so needy. I don't know. Maybe that's called being honest. I really think that there's nothing wrong communicating your wants and your needs, and now everybody has such a hard time doing that because maybe it'll seem like I want something from others, and that's like evil. Are you kidding me? We exist at the mercy of one another because we're able to communicate what we want and need from one another. And then when we choose that that's okay with each other, that's called a relationship, actually. But it starts with two people communicating that, not like as if they're needy, but as if they care about themselves. Because the last thing they want is to be on a contract with somebody that doesn't actually feel the same way.